Hey, we're back again. So I was on the computer and I went down a rabbit hole and I thought it'd be fun to take you with me. So do you know when you're on Google and you type something in and you get those little questions that also other people ask? I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through a whole bunch of those and just kind of look at them and just talk about them. So let's jump into it. What should every photographer have? Well, it says here, camera body, lenses, memory card, power, all those things are super important. But technically, you could be a photographer with an iPhone. So I don't necessarily believe all that. Support and protection, tripod, camera bag, and filters. These would probably be very essential if you're a landscape photographer or a real estate photographer. But if you're a portrait photographer, you could probably just get away with just having the camera bag. There's no point having $10,000 worth of photography gear and just chucking them in a Hessian sack. But as for tripods, you could technically just put your camera on a rock if you had to in a pinch. You don't necessarily need that. Filters, I could understand that you might potentially need that, especially in certain situations. Some type of landscape photography where you want to cut out some of the specular highlights, because polarizers are great for doing that. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. Oh yeah, it also says cleaning kits. Glass is actually quite strong and you can rub the hell out of glass. But quite often what happens is, especially on expensive lenses, they put like a protective coating over the lens and sometimes that can scratch quite easily. So I do recommend that you look after your lens, and also if you do clean it, make sure to remove the debris first by blowing it. You don't necessarily need a rocket air blower. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. Just get rid of the big stuff before you start rubbing your lens as hard as you can. What is the 3 rule in photography? I'm assuming what they're talking about here is the rule of thirds. That's when you break your image up into like a tic-tac-toe kind of grid, and then you put your subject in one of those 4 quadrants. This is a really good technique. I would say it's more of a guideline than a hard and fast rule, and you don't want to use the same technique for every photo, and not every photo needs this or requires this. Like quite often if you see a magazine, for example, they'll have the person slap bang in the middle. If you watch a Wes Anderson film, pretty much like a lot of the scenes are all center composition. My rule is if you've got a really strong subject, you can 100%, I give you permission to put them straight in the middle and it will look great, amazing. Use this. It's definitely, there's a reason why it exists, because quite often naturally your eye kind of wanders around to those kind of spaces anyway. Work with people, not against them. Also with landscapes, putting them straight in the middle can sometimes be a bit boring. Putting them on the top third or the lower third can be interesting. I've actually seen really good images where they cut it in the center. So like it's a guideline, not a rule. As long as your photos look cool, it doesn't really matter. What is the golden rule of photography? This is the rule of thirds, but with a little top hat and monocle. So it's very, very fancy. So this is essentially the Fibonacci sequence, which is like, it happens a lot in nature. This is the way that like plants quite often grow. Looks beautiful. Like I wouldn't be using my protractor every time I wanted to take a photo. Just know this, and when you see it in real life, it looks amazing and it's quite pleasing to the eye. And I think it's a great thing to keep your eye out when you're taking photos. When you find this thing in nature, shoot it because it can look really cool. Why do people enjoy photography? People enjoy photography because it acts like a visual time machine, allows for endless creative expression, and forces you to slow down and truly notice the world. Brilliant, love it. That is the truth. Like quite often, that's how we're going to get into photography. We want to capture moments and remember things for forever. Especially with me, I love taking photos of my family. I remember as a kid looking at my parents' photo albums and seeing myself as a young fella, and I always loved it. And I thought I'd love to have the same kind of experience for my kids when they get a bit older, when they can flick through and see photos of themselves when they're younger. And hopefully it might instill them to kind of pick up a camera as well. I'd love that, but I'm not forcing it on them. If they want to do it, that'd be great. Yeah, it's a great creative outlet. It also helps with mindfulness. So walking around the camera also shifts your focus to the present, and you can really notice things around you. It deepens observation, and it also builds connections. Like quite often I've made a lot of really good friends through photography. Like when you're really into something, and you meet somebody else who's also into that same thing as you, usually you have like a really good bond. How to photograph people better. Geez, wouldn't we all love to know how to do this? So what they've got here on the list is master the light. You know what? That's a really good one to start with. I'm glad that one's first. I forget who said the quote, but it's, I take photos of light and it just happens to have people in it. I love that quote. Mind your angles. Yeah, with different angles, you can kind of tell a different story about somebody. So if you're shooting from above, you know, it's a position of like dominance and it makes the person look smaller. Shoot from below, makes them look bigger. Utilize the rule of thirds, as we just talked about. Encourage natural posing. So quite often what I'll do is when I'm taking photos of people is I'll get them to walk around and I'll get them to do things, and then I get them doing things dynamically. So it quite often puts people at ease. So if I say, hey, pick up that hammer and start doing some work, they'll do that and they'll forget that the camera's there, and that's when you can kind of capture the natural kind of photos that you want. And then the last one is engage and direct. Some people, they just want direction as well, and that's totally fine. Quite often what I'll do is I'll say, stand there, do this, and you can kind of get the photo that you want. Sometimes you've got to ask for the photo, and you'll remember at the end of the day, you're making photos, not just taking photos. How do people take such good photos? Try to balance your shot, fill the frame with your subject, or think about leading lines that draw the viewer's eye across the image. Yep, I agree with that. Here are some of the most common hurdles photographers deal with and why pushing through them is worth it. Rejection is constant. Ain't it the truth? Gear is expensive and never ends. I half agree with that. So let's say, for example, you buy a camera and a lens. Yes, the camera will be outdated and you probably will want to replace it after 6 years of shooting it. And I'm talking about really thrashing it. But lenses, they can kind of continue on. So I've got some lenses that are over like 12, 15 years, like old lenses anyways. They keep on working. And even when they break, you can still kind of make them work. Support isn't the same as critique. Okay, what I'm assuming they mean there is if you've got a friend or a family member who says, you're doing great at photography, and then you've got somebody else who says, well, it's a good photo, except maybe you could improve by doing this, this, and this, or have you thought about doing this? They're two different things. So someone can be supportive and then maybe won't be the most helpful, because what they'll do is they'll tell you you're doing great. I like to use this analogy. Imagine if you're learning how to box and someone says, you're a great boxer, and you're finally going to have your first bout. So you're about to go into the ring, and all of a sudden you go in there and you get your butt whooped. You don't want to get your butt whooped. You want someone to say, hey, you're doing great, but maybe try and keep your arms up and defend yourself a little bit more. And you might stand a better chance, and you'll grow better as a photographer. Like, surround yourself with people who are much better than you at doing the thing that you want to be great at. And that's how you grow. Your passion can start to feel like work. I totally understand that. Sometimes what will happen is you'll do something you love, but then it'll become work, and then, you know, it's not as fun to do. Competition is fierce. It's an interesting one. I don't personally believe that. Like, most people just kind of get down and they just do their work. And I think it's a free market. Like, work hard and reap the rewards. How does photography help people? Reduces stress, promotes relaxation, and helping us appreciate the world around us. Reducing stress, I don't know about that one. Like, I think of photography completely differently. I think of it like it's a problem to be solved, and when you do solve it, oh my god, it's amazing. Like, when you take a fantastic image, but do I think that's low stress? Probably not. Like, oh my god. It also says it can boost your self-esteem and confidence as well. I'd definitely agree with that. Why is photography a good skill? You can take photos for fun or sell them as a side hustle. Yes, you totally could do that. What do pictures tell us? They hold information, stories, they evoke thoughts and feelings. 100%. So I was having a conversation with my son, and I was talking about like art, and I was saying that sometimes you can, as one human to another, I can tell you how I'm feeling with words, but with art, you can say how you feel with an image or a sculpture or a song or poetry. Like, it's just a way of communicating. That's what I personally believe. And I think photography is just a really good medium to do that. Sometimes you can tell really powerful stories. It's almost like a picture can tell 1,000 words. But what inspires you in photography? Seeing a beautiful landscape, building, or person. So yes, all those things can inspire you. Sometimes you just want to tell your own story, or you capture something really cool or a moment. They all inspire. Why is photography so powerful? It transcends borders, creates connections between people. Yes, I believe that. 100% agree. Like, you could be from two completely different countries, speak two completely different languages, and bond over photography. And I could share an image, and if it's a strong image, you could feel the same emotional response from that image. Is photography a skill or a talent? That's a good question. It says here it's both. Yes, but like, I grapple with this a little bit because I believe that it is a skill in the way of you can learn this. It's, let's say, for example, I put a piano in front of you and I said, well, just play the piano. And you would say, I can't. But I could teach you the notes, and I could help you along, and I can teach you some songs, and then you'd be able to play. I think an eye is developed over time. Like, that's why I believe it's more so a skill than a talent. Maybe I'm wrong, and you could probably correct me in the comments, but that's an interesting one. I could probably start a lot of fights with that. Okay, here's an interesting one. What can a photo tell you? So inside your file, you've got this thing called metadata, and metadata can tell you about like where the photo was taken, what settings were used. On Lightroom, you can actually click a button on the export so you can delete all that stuff. Personally recommend to do that. That way that you can essentially like keep yourself safe. What's some good quotes with photography? Ansel Adams, you don't take a photograph, you make it. Oof, powerful. That's actually a really good one. The camera is an instrument that teaches people to see without a camera. Ooh, that's a good one. The whole point of taking pictures is so that you don't have to explain things with words. If your pictures aren't good enough, you aren't close enough. Great photography is about depth of feeling, not depth of field. That's actually a great one. I'm just gonna sit on that for a little bit. It's more important to click with people than it is to click the shutter. Oh, that's bloody brilliant as well. These are great. What makes a photographer talented? Technical skills, the backbone of the craft. See, that's an interesting one. Like, I've seen a lot of really good photographers on Instagram, and all they use is an iPhone. And like, yeah, they might not know what a shutter speed, aperture, or ISO is, but geez, they can get some really good photos. Will AI replace photographers? Oh my God, I'm jumping into a bloody hornet's nest here. Where it's actually taking over at the moment, stock photography, basic commercial shots, and post-production and culling. Yes, I would agree with that. Where humans are safe, events and weddings, 100%. Unless Elon Musk has like some robot that follows you around all day and taking photos of you at a wedding. Photojournalism and personal branding. It's true. I was having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about coffee shops, and I thought it was interesting. I can go to 7-Eleven, which is where they have these $2 coffees, and you press a button and a robot bzz, bzz, makes the coffee. Or you can go to a coffee shop and get it made by a barista. I know 9 times out of 10, I'll always go to the barista, even though the robot is faster and cheaper. But like, I like it being real, obviously. I'm a photographer, so of course, I have skin in the game as well. But yeah, I don't think AI, like what it's trained on is millions and millions of images, but not every image is great. And like, as a human, I think you've got more of a connection to the images than AI. What is the most important photo ever taken? The Hubble Deep Field in 1995, and also Pale Blue Dot taken by Voyager 1. Okay, I think Big NASA has taken over Google here, because I don't necessarily think these are very scientifically important, but I don't think it culturally as important. Photos remind us of people, places, and activities we love. Yes, What photo sold for 4.3 million? Ah, wow, rhyme too. A German visual artist, Anders Kurtzsky. I'm pronouncing that wrong. What's interesting about this image here is he's breaking the rule of thirds and he's still earned 4.3 million. I've heard stories of these artists, and what they do is they get their agent to buy their art through some like third. I'm not saying that in this particular case, but they buy the art themselves to make it look like their art's worth a lot more. I'm not saying that happened here, but like $4.3 million, that's a lot. It's not even an Ansel Adams. What is slang for photographer? Shutterbug, photog or tog, shooter, lensman, or paparazzi. Don't call me any of these things. I hate every single one of them. Especially lensman. It feels like I should be wearing like a leather coat and have like cameras underneath my... Thank you so much for watching the video. I know it was a bit of a random one, but I think it was pretty cool just to put something out there and have a bit of a laugh with me. And don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the buttons, leave a comment, do all those things. And thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I'm only just starting out, so any support would be really nice. Thank you so much.